Drunk Dog Creative. I'm Bridget A, and in this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to do a swivel fold fun fold that I've engineered over the last couple of weeks. How this unfolds is really unique. Right now, it's a vertical card, but if you hold the two ends and open it, it swivels to make a horizontal card, and the tag on the front swivels with it. So it's just kind of a neat little design. I've seen some swivel cards before, but when they close, they're like in an X so that you have to have a square envelope. These are designed to fit in a normal, regular envelope. So you open it and it swivels. And if you've tied it with a ribbon, like this one, you just have to undo it. And you hold the two ends and it opens to a swivel. So I have some cards on display here that are both Thanksgiving and Christmas themed. I was born in America, but I live in Australia now. But I have family and friends, so I still do Thanksgiving cards. Most of my tutorials are in metrics in the videos, but if you head over to the blog at drunkdogcreative.com, you'll find that a lot of the papercraft tutorials, I give instructions for imperial and metrics, because I know I have people that are supporting me from both the US and the UK and Australia and Canada. So I try to give both measures. So what I've done here is a couple of Thanksgiving cards using some designer series paper that was in clearance from last year, and a couple of Christmas cards using that gorgeous One Horse Open Sleigh designer series paper that's a current online exclusive at Stampin' Up. But I've also done two in some really special papers, the Oxidized Copper set and the Shining Brightly set. Now, the reason you can't see these in the shop is because they're not released yet. They come out for order on September 6th as part of the September to December mini catalog. So I'm really excited about this catalog. As a demonstrator, I got an advanced look at it and I was allowed to pre-order some things that I'm going to use in this tutorial. If you can't wait till December 6th, shoot me a message and talk to me about becoming a demonstrator yourself if you're in Australia. Because then you get discounts and early access, which is really cool. Anyways, let's talk about this card. So normally when I do my videos, I have the paper pieces already cut, and I have pre-cut some of them, but there's a few that I thought I better demonstrate the best way to do it. The thing about this card is it takes absolute precision. You have to be pretty fiddly with how you fold it and line it up and how you cut it. So I thought it's better to demonstrate it. I've got an A4 piece of Night of Navy cardstock here, and I want it to be 277 millimeters long. Now, the measurements in this can be a little odd, and that's because of the precision needed to bring those triangles exactly together. So I'm going to line it up on here at 277. This is my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, and it has both a scoring blade and a cutting blade. And that's really helpful for this card. So I'm going to cut that at 277 long and put that piece aside. And then I'm going to cut this into two pieces of 277 millimeters, and 105 millimeters wide, which should give you two exact same size pieces. Just lightly draw the blade, because if you push too hard, it can fray the edge because it is super sharp and it only needs a light touch. So now I've got two pieces that are 105 millimeters wide and 277 millimeters tall. I'm going to score both of them at 148 millimeters. So I am going to use my scoring blade here, and I'm just going to very lightly rub it up and back so that I have one side that is 148 millimeters. I'm going to do the same to the other one. So that's the main cuts and scoring done, and we'll come back to these pieces in a minute. The other pieces you need is a square piece for the front, which is 100 by 100 millimeters. Now that's going to be cut in half at a diagonal. So decide what you want to be the top and the bottom and the left and the right. Just have a look at, well, with this piece, it's pretty much the same, but some pieces may have a one-way design. So decide which way you want it to face, and you want to cut it at a diagonal from the top left to the bottom right. And the easiest way to do that on this trimmer is to just align the points of the corner into that cutting channel. Make sure they're aligned in the cutting channel, close the guard and hold it, and then just lightly drag through, and you will have 2 triangles that you need for the front of the card. The other pieces I've cut is a contrasting DSP, and these are 100 millimeters wide by 18 millimeters tall. So they're both 100 by 18. And then I've just die cut a piece for the front. What you use on the front is completely up to you, and it depends on whether you want embellishments on the front or a sentiment on the front, whatever you want. And as you saw from the other cards, you can use circles, squares, rectangles, fancy tags, anything that you think looks good on the front. And then I've got the inside writing panel, which is 95 millimeters by 138 millimeters. If you want to do a double layer panel, like you wanted some gold foil behind it or something, those measurements are also on the blog for that option. All right, so that's my papers all cut up. The other thing I need is a 45 centimeter piece of ribbon, and this is Night of Navy and gold, and this is going to be in the new mini catalog that's coming out as well. It's absolutely beautiful. And why you want a piece this long is because you have to tie the bow. And if you're like me and you're not good at tying bows, the longer it is, the easier it is to tie, and then the easier it is for the person you're giving the card to tie and untie. So I found about 45 centimeters or 450 millimeters is a good length. All right, so now I'm going to show you what to do with the card base. You have 2 pieces, and you've done the score for the 148 millimeters so that they fit together. And I'm going to teach you how to do these score lines because you have to be pretty precise with them. So I'm going to take the piece that you've decided is your right-hand piece, and I'm going to put it on my scoring board. Now, my scoring board, it's a Stampin' Up! One. It comes with imperial scores every 1/8 of an inch, but I've also bought the metric plate to put on top of it. It has these guides that you can move the pegs to any of these holes to line up with where you most frequently use or what you're using. It has a stylus, a double-ended stylus that sits in this neat little pocket right there. And I use this so much. So I'm going to show you how to do these folds now. You're going to take the card and you're going to, this is your right one, you're going to go ahead and fold that flap, and you're going to need a bone folder or something and really make sure that's a sharp crease. Then you're going to do what I've sort of already done, but I'm going to demonstrate it again. Take a ruler. Don't rely on the ruler on your paper trimmer because the channel that it cuts through gives you about 1 millimeter leeway, and that'll put the card off. So use a normal ruler, and up at the top to the right of the fold, you want to measure, put it right on that crease line, and you want to mark 22 millimeters to the right of the crease line. That's your 148 wide side, so 22 millimeters to the crease line. And then you're going to line this up to do the crease. And how I line mine up is I take that pointy corner and I put it right in one of the grooves, and then I line my pencil mark up to the groove, and I make sure without pressing that it is the same groove, because visually you can be off by one and swear that you're in the right place. And to be honest, that's why I pre-creased this one, to make sure I didn't mess it up for the video. So take your stylus and lightly crease along that line, and then you fold the card closed like you normally would, and then you're going to fold along that crease. But what I want you to do is, sometimes when you make that crease, this can be slightly off. And so you want to just push it to make sure it absolutely aligns right along that edge. And then you just push all the way over with your bone folder and then go over it again a couple times. So that's your top right piece. Now for the other piece, which is your left bottom piece, so when it's folded, it's the bottom, when it's open, it's the left. Again, you've got the 148 millimeter side. So what you want to do is this time at the bottom, you want to make a mark, again, 22 millimeters. So I'm going to put my 22 mark right on the crease line to the left of the original crease or fold, and you're just going to mark that. That's the 148 millimeter side. This is the flap side. 22 from the fold. You're going to mark it, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to put that point in one of your groove lines, and you're going to line that pencil mark up to the same line, and before you crease it, make sure it is the same line. And just very lightly do a light crease down that line. And you're going to fold it. And this one's pretty spot on, but I need to just adjust it up here a little bit. So I'm going to just hold it where it actually needs to be. And again, just run the bone folder from left to right to make sure that that really is on line. And that crease was pretty good, so we've got it. So that's what you need to do to both pieces to get the crease right. And then when you put the card together, they will line up. So now that we've got the folds and the creases right, it's time to assemble the card. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I have my ribbon. The ribbon, make sure the ribbon you use is a flat one and not one that's raised or barreled like twine. I'm going to put my top right on top of the bottom left. And I'm going to take my multi-glue that I get from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to glue it. And most of you who know me know that I am a big fan of tape glue. Why am I using normal glue for this? Because the precision needed to put this card together means you need to be able to adjust and make moves. And if you use tape glue, you can't do that. Once it's down, and you can't move it or adjust it. I'm going to just kind of roughly fold my ribbon in half so I know where the center is. And I'm going to put that in the middle. And you see I put a line of glue through the middle. And I'm going to press that down. Make sure that it's wrong side up if it's single-sided ribbon, because it's going to wrap around the card. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of glue over the ribbon and just make sure that there's enough. And here's a top tip for you. When you're using glue, if you put it right at the edge, that's when the glue can squirt out. So I go into the corner and then in a little bit from the edge so that when I push this down, it should still spread out some more. So what I'm going to do is exactly align this edge right on the fold, the bottom edge along the bottom, the top edge along the top, and just fold this over to make sure that the bottom one isn't sticking out there. And when that's good, I just press it all down. So now, okay, lights have fallen over. So when I press this down, that creates the mechanism and creates the single card with the ribbon ready. So as you can see, there you go. If I'm going to stamp something on the inside writing panel, I would do it before I affix it. But I'm not going to at this point, so I'm going to put it in. And if you have trouble aligning it, use the glue. Otherwise, go ahead and use your Stampin' Seal or your glue tape to affix that. So I'm going to do that. And there are instructions on the blog if you want to make this double layered. So if you want to put a piece of DSP or foil or something pretty and then the sentiment area, the writing panel smaller, the measurements to do that are on the blog. So you can see I've got that. And then it's time to put our other pieces of specialty DSP on it. And I'm going to teach you some tips for how to line that up. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold that back and flip this over. So the first one you put down sets your guide for all the others. So again, I'm going to use glue because you might have to wiggle it to get it precisely into place. So then I'm going to just, what I want to do is get it right on the edge. So unlike a mat where it's all around, you want it right on the edge, and you want pretty even top and bottom gap, but you want this bit right on the edge. All right, so that bit's done. Now to do this bit, again, we're going to put the glue on it. And I love this glue because it has, unbelievable. I'm obviously rubbing the desk too hard. I love this glue because it has the rubber squeegee on it. And it has two ends. It has a fine point as well as the sort of squeegee end. All right, so I've got this all glued up and ready to go. I'm going to hold these both down, and I'm going to carefully align this to the edge, but I'm also going to align the corner points so that they match. And that way I'll have it even all the way around, and the two will match together. And then I'm going to open it out and just kind of push it down. Now, if you get bits of glue on the cardstock, let it dry and use a glue eraser to get it off. If you don't have one in your toolkit, you need a glue eraser in your life. So I've done that. That bit's done. Now what I've got to do is the contrasting DSP at the top. And again, when I go to put it down, I'm going to line it to those corners. So you get your first piece exactly where you want it, and then you use that as a guide for all the other pieces. So again, glue or glue tape if you're a little more confident with laying this one. I'll just keep going with the glue. I'm going to do it so that it has the full mat all the way around, but the left and right edge align with the left and right edge of the triangle piece. And if you use the glue, you can just wiggle it a little bit until you get it in the right place. I'm going to flip this around and do the same thing for this one. Too far over. If I'm happy with it, I rub it, try to brush a little bit of the glue on the edge off, and seal the glue up, always. And then I've got the basic card done, and we're ready for the next step. So I want to add a little bit of interest to these panels. Now, one thing you could do is put the contrasting DSP there, but if you don't want to use up a lot of DSP, one neat little trick is to stamp images in the same ink color as the paper, which in this case is Night of Navy. And if you've been following me, you know how often I say this. One of the great things about Stampin' Up! Is how everything color coordinates. So the paper, the designer series paper, the specialty designer series paper, the ribbons, the embellishments, the inks, the markers, the alcohol markers, all come in the same color. So I've got my Night of Navy ink pad, which I'm just gonna, I should show you how that opens. It's a really cool thing. It just flips open and then it slides. So you can use that to put some ink and some water to do watercoloring. You can tap it onto your stamp pad or tap your stamp onto it. It's really useful and it's really stable. I have never needed to use like a silicone mat under it to hold it. Maybe I'm just lucky, but I haven't had to. I've grabbed a couple of stars from last year's Joyful Flurry stamp set. I can't guarantee that this is still in clearance or not, but I did get it last year. Just use any image you want and any stamp set you have. I'm a big believer in using what you already have. Okay, so I'm just going to lightly tap the star on my Night of Navy, and I'm just going to put a big star there, and then I'm going to get my little star on my little tiny block and dot a few of those around. and you don't have to press hard. Stampin' Up's blocks have this great groove that you can like hold on to. And with their stamps, you don't have to press hard. In fact, if you do, you'll get too much ink on the paper and you can't even catch that edge. So you just got to very lightly press it down with even force, which is why I like the grooved edge rather than pressing from the top. But everyone has their own way of doing it. I'm just switching to a different snowflake because I feel like it. I'm going to put that up in that corner. And then I'm going to grab my little one again and just dot a few of the little ones around. So that just gives a little visual interest to the inside. I'm going to give that just a second to dry. The inks do dry very fast. So while that's drying, I'm just going to give my hands a little wipe because I've still got bits of glue and bits of ink, and I don't want to transfer the ink to the very vanilla sentiment tag that I've die cut. I'm notorious for getting ink splotches everywhere. I always keep some biodegradable, eco-friendly wet wipes in my toolkit for that. And instead of paper towels, I tend to use the Chuck's wipes because I can use them over and over again for things too. So I've got my embossing stuff out. This is my embossing additions kit, which is the tray, the embossing resin pad. I never remember what to call that. Brush and heat-proof tweezers. I'm going to stamp the sentiment with Night of Navy, but I want to emboss it. And I find that the ink pads do dry almost too quickly to emboss with. So there's a little trick I'm going to show you where you use both Versamark and your ink to stamp your sentiment. So I've got a sentiment from one of the sets that is available in the September-December mini catalog, so available from 6th of September, called Night Divine. And this is a beautiful set, especially if you have family and friends who celebrate Christmas from the religious point of view. I do too, and I have family and friends that do, but I also have a lot of friends that don't, who are, either don't practice any particular faith or are from other faiths. So I make a mix of cards that are both Christian in meaning for Christmas and also, not Christian. So this has some beautiful stamps that can be used for both. So there's obviously several that are very Christian, but then there's Joy and Peace, which is a beautiful sentiment, and the stars are brightly shining, which is also lovely. And then you have The Lord is my shepherd, glory to God in the highest, O holy night. And this one, you need to check out Instagram and Facebook because I've put some cards up that use the same DSP we're using in this video and this beautiful stamp. It's He shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Beautiful stamp set, available 6th of September, 2023. The one I've chosen to use is The Stars Are Brightly Shining. And I've cut out a square. Now, the great thing about this card design, this fun fold, is that any front is good. I'm going to put this one down as a diamond, which this fits perfectly without making the square so big that it overwhelms the front of the card. So, and I'm going to use clear embossing powder to do this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our stamp and we're going to tap it first in the Versamark. So just lightly tap it and get that inked in Versamark, then immediately tap it onto the Night of Navy and get the Night of Navy on it. I use my grid pad almost always to line these things up, especially when it's a diamond shape and you want the 2 points aligned and you want this fairly centered. And then I just drop it down and do a light press and pick it off, and then immediately put my clear powder all over it. Tap it off slightly to get the excess off. If there's a little bit left in places I don't want it, I can just flick it with a little paintbrush. The good thing about clear is you don't have to worry too much. And then, of course, this is not much room to grab without the heat getting my hands. So I am going to put the things on it, but I'm also going to close my ink pads so the heat doesn't hit them. And then I'm going to take my heat tool, which I've pre-warmed, by the way. You should always pre-warm it so it doesn't burn the paper. And I'm just gonna wave it back and forth until I see the magic change happen. And as soon as the change has happened, you stop because you don't want to overheat it. So that's my sentiment ready. And then for this is why I love this set. I just brush it down. If you can see it, brush it down, and it comes out the end right back into my container. And I can put my lid back on, and we are ready to go the next time. All right, I need a different setup for the next video, I think. So there you go. That's the embossing done. Love this set, really love this set. If I change colors, I really clean this out thoroughly and make sure it's completely dry before I use the next color. Just a tip. All right. So now that I've got this done, I'm going to close my card. And this is my glue eraser. It looks like a normal eraser. As you work, it gets gunky on the edges. When they get too gunky, you just pull them off. If there's any glue spots that show that I don't want, you just lightly rub with the eraser and it takes the spots off. And it works on glue tape as well as glue. But lightly rub so that you don't pull the glue off and take the paper with it. So just very lightly rub. And that's that. Now, I'm going to position this on here. And you want to put your glue or your glue tape just on the half that's going to be on this panel only. You don't want any of it on this panel or it won't open. So I've kind of eyeballed where that line is. And I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to glue just off that line. I don't want to go all the way to the edge just in case. It'll hold. And then I line this up and decide, centered, twisted, whatever I want. So that's my sentiment. And when I open the card, it's open and the sentiment is still upright. So that's the swivel fold. And then it's just a question of getting my ribbon and tying it. Now, these cards don't stay closed well. They pop a little, and that's why I've added the ribbon. Plus, I think it's really cute. It's almost like they're unwrapping a present, not just a card. But you can use your bone folder and just go over all of the folds, sentiment and all, a few more times to try and get that sharpness into it. But while the ribbon's optional, I think it's adorable, and I think it's a great way of saying, here's not just a beautiful Christmas card, but here's a little Christmas present for you. So when they open it, you just untie the ribbon, grab the edges, and swivel. And you've got your beautiful Christmas card ready to go. Now, before we go, I want to show some of the others more closely to show you some different ideas. This one just has a very simple ribbon. It's designer series paper that's on clearance. I've smudged that, so this one is going to get redone before I give it away. But I took these leaves that come with these amber gems, again on clearance right now, and I just colored them over with some coppery wax because they're craft. They're that brown craft paper, so you can color them with almost anything. And I stamped with the Soft Seedlings stamp set, which is on clearance, and this is one from last year. Now, this effect I want to talk about. Can you see how it's an ombre effect of different colors? All I did was color the stamp with my Stamp and Write markers instead of using an ink pad, and I just colored parts of it in Cajun Craze, Pumpkin Pie, Crushed Curry, and Olive, whatever the olive one is. Sorry, I'll put it up in the subtitles. And I just colored bits of the stamp across, and then when I stamped it, it blended into this beautiful blend. So that's another trick. This was a stamp using pumpkin pie ink on pumpkin pie paper. And I just cut a little tag from white and used one of my punches to notch out the edges and stamped the stamp on it. This was obviously the one made the reverse of the one we just made together. So I reversed the colors, but still used Night of Navy as the base. And I embossed in gold, so I didn't need the ink and Versamark, just the Versamark. And I used a vanilla and gold ribbon. So, you know, that's how you maximize your DSP cuts. Sorry. This one is made with the One Horse Open Sleigh DSP. This is, you know, there are two designs on each side. So I put the gorgeous little, well, I call it Bambi, the little fawn. This is from the Lights Aglow set, and that's on clearance right now. And this is the double matte. So I used the same DSP as the top for the background in a smaller white piece. And I haven't put anything on the red because I thought the card spoke for itself. So that's that one without a ribbon. Again, Thanksgiving, just different colors and different designs on the inside. This is Cajun Craze with Cajun Craze ink and soft seedlings. So I've done that. This also uses the One Horse Open Sleigh DSP, but instead of a sentiment on the front, I've cut out the gorgeous little fox that might be my favorite piece in this whole set. And I've used a scene and the back of one of the other ones. And then when you open it, I've put some little characters from another new stamp set that I've got for Christmas. This is the So Very Merry set, which is like stained glass. They're photopolymer. And watch this space because I'll be doing something with that soon. So I just stamped a couple things and I put the sentiment on the inside, wishing you a season of hope and light. And I've used this gorgeous glittery organza iridescent ribbon for that one. And this is a Thanksgiving card I made with another set of Specialty Designer Series papers from the September-December mini catalog called Oxidized Copper. And it coordinates with the Pretty Peacock cardstock and inks. So it's, I'm pretty sure that that's the copper clay cardstock, which is one of the 2023 to 2025 in colors. And that's the Pretty Peacocks. And I've used the brand new copper ribbon, which comes in a set with a wider kind of natural, almost burlappy ribbon. And that's also in the new mini catalog. So you open that, and again, I've got my leaf and my amber gem, and I've just cut a tag and stamped it with Pretty Peacock. And open it, again, used soft seedlings in Pretty Peacock and a very vanilla writing area. And that's for a slightly more glam look.